What's going on, Workforce? Brian and Chris here, and today we're talking about pre-order purgatory within the world of Final Fantasy XIV as we march towards Endwalker, which gives you early access November 19th if you pre-order. We're seeing a lot of people, we're actually seeing a lot of tweets coming our way talking about this going from the trial into Endwalker. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to sit down, walk it out for you, talk about where this could catch you, and hopefully answer the question, is it okay to go ahead and purchase Shadowbringers if you're caught in this kind of purgatory? So Chris, what's your initial thoughts here? What you want to break down the information so everybody's got it?
Yeah, so first of all, what happens is when you buy an expansion, it comes with all previous expansions. So when you buy Shadowbringers, you get everything prior to that. And when you buy, and that's why they do like a complete edition. They have some different terminology. Their store is very confusing. Yoshi has expressed that a lot of that is because there's the way Square Enix operates, there's the way Final Fantasy XIV operates, and they only have control over the 14 portion, and it is restricted to how the Square Enix one operates. So like it can't be perfect. He's expressed frustration. But effectively, if you pre-order Endwalker, you get Shadowbringers as well as the previous ones, but only once you own Endwalker. So because many places in the world force them to have to make this something that is refundable if they have not yet granted the service, they have to consider, what if you went from the free trial and you began leveling, you have unlimited time in the free trial, and you began leveling, you hit level 61, and then you decided, you know what? I don't think I actually want to start paying a subscription. I don't think I actually want to be in Endwalker content. I'd like to get my $40 back. So you refund it. You now have an account you can't log into because you are level 61. So they can't get you back to being a free trial. You can't go back. And so they don't want you to put your whole account into some weird purgatory, is the word Brian used, this weird in-between space, this liminal space of nothingness where you're stuck. And so you have to always be on a legit copy of the game that you do own, and you cannot own Endwalker because they will distribute codes as we right up against the date. Until you own it, you don't own it. You've said, I would like to be given a code and I'm willing to give you money in trade for that, but you don't technically own it yet. And so that's what gets us in this mess. I think the answer for me is discount the crap out of Shadowbringers.
Yes. And they've been doing that.
60, knock it 40, 60, whatever you can afford to, because they do still have to pay anybody else involved, any, in between, go-betweens, any stores, distributors, and all that. So just discount it. Just knock it to half off, knock it below. That way somebody's like, you know what, it's only 3 weeks of access, but they've knocked it down to $20.
$20
is a steal. And right now, we're going to leave it at $20, and it comes with a free sub month, which is $15. It's a $15 value.
Yeah.
So it's like, it sucks, but like, if you want to be ready for the expansion, this is how you do it. You're out $5. MMOs were literally like, we talk about this. We're talking about people with over 1,000 days of playtime in some cases. Most people have at least 100 days of playtime. You're talking about something that is pennies per hour. So like $5 in the big scheme of life, if that is a number that affects you, I've been there. I've been at points in my life where $5 felt like it would have changed my outlook on the rest of the week to be handed a $5 bill. I've been there. That is not a time that you need to think very carefully about whether or not an MMO is a good format of entertainment, because you're paying $15 every month forever. So like if that's where you're at, I get that. I think something that's more like a single player game that replayability is more baked in, or something like Guild Wars that doesn't have a subscription might be a better fit.
New World, I think would be another good choice if you have a computer that can run it, in that regards, because that's the other aspect of cost.
Sure.
Yeah, because
I think Game Pass, assuming you can get your hands on a console, I think Game Pass is a better buy than Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft for the $15 per month.
Well, and that's another topic for another video, because we've kind of hinted at that specific, is that one of the things that's happening within the MMO space is they're no longer competing against like that other MMO subscription. No, you're competing against Game Pass that has actually MMOs in it. So as well, like it's like, okay, so it's going to be an interesting thing. So the other aspect of this, I want to make sure everybody's fundamentally clear on what kind of catches people. And I'm kind of watching, because they did give me like a code. The registration for early access was a little bit different this time around, but traditionally early access does not grant you the previous expansion until the release date.
No, because you can still refund.
Exactly. Until the actual release date of the 23rd, thus not the 19th. Now, I'm kind of like waiting because the pre-order registration this time around was different, but I'm not going to go out on a limb saying, guys, you're ready to go on the 19th. My concern is that on the 19th, will you be able to step into Endwalker if you're coming from the free trial? Well, no, because you got 2 expansions to level and play through. So no matter what, the 19th is not going to affect you. The downside, I think, is that it still will unlock on the 23rd when you actually get your full-on code release. If that's not the case, here's the best news out of it. I was wrong. You get to play early. However, I'd rather be on that side of the fence rather than say like, oh yeah, you'll be able to play on the 19th. You're good to go.
Let me take off work.
Yeah. And so just note that that's in the past. Like, and that early access code is something that usually only lasts a week so that all the codes and distribution can get put out. And so you do have a week to actually officially apply your code. Otherwise, your account does get paused. Like, it, you know, so as you talk about that limbo and whatnot, that's how it's worked in the past. You will have to register the code, especially if you have already, like us, ready to go right into Endwalker. Unless, again, that the system registration this time around was different. So I am hopeful, but I'm not ready to hang my hat on that on that hill right there.
Okay, so that explains how we got here.
Yes.
That explains why people are frustrated and that we understand their frustration, but there's nothing that can be done about it. And it all gets fixed in 3 or 4 weeks anyway.
Right.
So the big cost here, the big pain point is that people, can't play for a couple weeks. There's a lot of other great games out there right now. So assuming they have any other game they're interested in, you can literally say, well, then screw you. I'll go play something else. Great. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Go play New World. Go play Diablo. Go play whatever it is that interests you. There's plenty going on in gaming right now. And then we'll see you back in 4 weeks. Now, the downside is people have been told, like, well, I want to be there on launch. I want to be there on launch. I want to be part of the big experience. I've been in MMO launches, such as, you know, a Guild Wars launch or a World of Warcraft launch. And those can be really special times in an MMO. I will tell you that doing MSQ at the same time as everybody else is special in 14, but compared to other MMOs, the MMO launch is kind of broken into multiple segments. It's not all happening simultaneously. Like many MMOs, our high-end stuff is delayed. So we're looking at probably December 21st for Savage. So the high-end World First stuff, you'll finish your stuff in time to watch the World First race or take part in the World First race. But the other thing is, like, Brian, you recommend to content creators all the time. If you're new in the space and you're worried about being 2 weeks late to the expansion, honestly, that might be preferred. So for many of these people who are like, I'm not going to be done with MSQ on time, or because of this purchase, I'm now going to be delayed getting in. I'm willing to put in the time, but you're talking about maybe being 2, 3, 4 weeks late to the expansion. Did I miss out on all the fun?
No. And that's the thing. So if you're a content creator, like the fact that I know Rich Gamble tweeted out that he finally finished the Shadowbringer story, like my advice to Rich, hey, congratulations, good job. I think he's still working on his triple legend, but my advice is, like, from a story perspective, delay that a couple of weeks before you dive into Endwalker, because everybody, we want to experience it. Like, I don't want to watch you experience it and me not having it. And that's one of the things that, like, many content creators who've come over into the space usually get caught off guard by. Now, if you're not a content creator, should you purchase Shadowbringers and go in? That's a financial decision. The answer would, in my mind, is yes, especially if you get it on discount. But if that's a financial strap, you do get all that on the 23rd. So like Chris said, like, decide what your money and your time's worth. I think it's well worth it, especially at $20, so that you're no longer capped at 60. You can jump right into Stormblood, and then into Shadowbringers. And by the time you're done, you're not behind the curve anyway. You're still going to be a couple weeks out, and you get to experience what people will be talking about, which is the new hype. That's what all the advertisement's going to be about. That's what everything's going to be driving towards. And with all those factors, like, that's what you're going to be advertised, and that's where the hype's going to be driven. And if you're only a little bit away off of that, I think that's going to help you, especially if you find, like, a piece of the story that maybe it's just like, oh, this is taking a little bit longer than I expected, yada, yada, yada. That way you can move forward. Content creators, in this regards, I would wait. Like, if you're sitting here still on the trial, I would sit here and just kind of wait, because from a content creation, people want to watch your tears. I think that's the meme. Like, we are here in your stream to watch you cry at certain parts of the story that made us cry. And
right.
And so,
which means you have to wait for us to get through it first.
Yeah,
I can't watch you till after I'm done.
Right. And so that's kind of where the ebb and flow of this comes along. I wish though, like, there was a little bit better communication, because I've spent a little bit of time already trying to communicate this. In fact, actually making a buyer's guide. But this isn't just me. This is like prominent figures within gaming have been like, hey, Square Enix, like, I will happily come work for you to redesign your store, because it is that kind of confusing. And it gets even more confusing when you start throwing PlayStation and different licensing versions into the mix. I see people constantly saying, oh, I bought it on PlayStation. What do you mean I don't have it on PC? And it's like, those are two separate licenses.
Or you bought it on Steam and you're now
committed
to being a Steam account.
Yeah.
And it's a whole ordeal. So from here, then the question becomes, okay, well, how long do I have? Because at some point you did miss out on the initial portion of Endwalker. So let's talk about the initial pacing and kind of expound on this topic fully. So for anybody that has not been through a Final Fantasy XIV launch, there are a couple of patches per patch. 0.0 being your first patch. Then we have 0.0, 0.5. You have your half patch, which will trickle out. There will be things that will trickle out along the way that will be on time release, things like Savage. That doesn't necessarily put us at the half patch. So they can separate things in a half patch. And then we go to 0.1. Now, once we're in 0.1, we have half patch, full patch, half patch, full patch. We alternate that through until we get to 0.5. Assuming this expansion rolls out like the previous one, they've said they're looking at whether or not to change it. And then there is a 0.58, which kind of unlocks the way Echo works as a catch-up mechanic to get us into the next expansion. So that's the theme. So let's just talk about 6.0 to 6.1, not even beyond 6.1, to the day before 6.1, to the 24-hour minutes of 6.1. What is that timeline? And what can players expect as far as like, how long should it take me to clear? Because they're saying the story is 30% longer. It's got 50% more words. So people that read slowly like me, that's more than 30% longer. Yeah. Like what's the time rollout from November 19th, November 23rd being the official launch to the maintenance going into 0.1?
So from my perspective, based off of what they've communicated, they typically target an expansion around 40 hours of playthrough, kind of one single, like you're going through your character. So I'd estimate with a 30% increase, both in voice acting, 50% more words, etc., you'd be looking at a 50 hour, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on how fast you read. This is substantial. This is their, this is their moment. This is the kind of something that I think will be remembered. Like when you look back throughout like gaming history, where we can have fond memories, especially over expansions. But in the case of it, it's like it is saying like, okay, we've now released Final Fantasy XIV like as a whole thought, and that I think is going to be a moment that within the course of that period, people will experience and be able to share in that excitement. We'll be talking about it. Like we'll obviously give some kind of warning and some kind of breath to let people kind of get caught up so they can actually enjoy the content side of things. But I think it's going to be one of those moments that you should be considering coming into this game at least around now. Like if you haven't started the free trial, now is the right answer. If you are and you're sitting at that 60, that's a financial decision. And then once Endwalker is out, I think that's going to be something that it will be interesting to see. What I'm looking for is how do people communicate what the surprise and stuff elements are coming down the line without ruining those surprises to the rest of the world. So in my way, just like a TV series finale drops or a movie comes out that I want to see, there's going to be jerk offs that are running around that will just decide to try to ruin it for people. And my fear would be like, you kind of want to be ahead of the curve so you don't, like if you're spoiler sensitive, so you don't accidentally have it ruined just by opening your homepage on your internet browser.
So at 60 hours, if the average player is tied up in holiday stuff with their family, crazy work schedules this time of year, especially for companies that have fiscal years that tie up with the calendar year, it's a crazy time of year.
Right.
60 hours, you could easily look at people that only get 4 hours a week to play.
Yeah.
It could easily take them through the end of the year to clear this thing.
Yeah.
That's the hyper casual end. I think a lot of people set aside a time at the beginning of an expansion to play a lot more than they traditionally would.
Right.
You're going to have people that will have fully cleared it and are aware of what the spoiler moments are within 3 days. I mean, there are going to be people that are playing 18 hours a day. They're going to crank this thing out. And so that's your range, that like 3 days to 3 months. The further you get down that spectrum, right, the more people are going to become aware of things. Yoshi P has said the first big moment he's noted is he believes something happens at 83.
Yeah.
He also believes that there are things that he thinks there are some people that will see the credits roll and might not yet No. So the credits roll at the end of the 0.0 patch. So we are, so like that's your range. That's where all the spoilers happen. There could be stuff pre-83. He's just screwing with us at this point. So I think 2 to 4 weeks is probably the time frame that I would expect most people to start kind of coming out of their little caves and back into the community. It's going to be a weird space in between then. It's going to be a bunch of, I know the thing. Do you know the thing? Well, it depends. What thing are we talking about? Well, do you want to say it on 3? No, let's just not say it. So there's going to be this weird kind of time for the first couple weeks. So I think for all the people that are, since this is a post about people who feel screwed by coming off the free trial this close to the expansion, I would say if you're somebody that feels that you could play enough to be ready for Endwalker in 3 weeks, you are also the kind of person that has enough to catch up if you're a couple days late. So if you come in on the 23rd, you are just not going to be that far behind. You have all of Stormblood and Shadowbringers to do anyway. You're talking about possibly being done by the end of the year as is. You're still going to finish ahead of some casual players. So I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it.
The end of the day, it's going to have to be, I would say, from a financial perspective, if you were gaming something else, like enjoyed the thing you're playing. But I would recommend that, especially if you're sitting here at level cap, you finished Heaven's Word, and now you're having to wait till actually November the 23rd would be my guess. I think it's easy. Worst case scenario is it's easy, $20, just get going. You're not going to regret that $20. It's not like you're going to sit here and be like, oh no, and now I spent $40 on Endwalker. You would have saved $20. Well, that's the course of a month. That's okay. There you go. You're ready to rock and roll. But that's obviously my bias.
We traditionally view $1 per hour with games, standalone titles, and $1 per hour MMOs are they're pennies. They're pennies. They're pennies not even. I can't compare a single player game to what I get out of an MMO because I would never be allowed to purchase a single player game by that metric.
Yeah.
Like it's just unfair. You would have to replay each game 10 times. And like I can't think of a single player game that I could know prior to having played it that I know I'm going to play 10 times. Exactly. That's insane.
Exactly. So at the core, I wish you guys luck. I'm sorry that it is confusing. I did not have anything to do with that. That's just the way that it is.
No, he brought Asmund over, but like he did not choose this pricing.
It's like, Louise, I don't know where that came from, but geez Louise, it's so funny. I'll take credit, you're welcome. My whole goal has always been to grow the 14 community and help the game out in any way that I can. So if I've inadvertently done that, then I guess everybody, you're welcome. Chris, why don't you take us out?
Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video and you enjoy me coming from a strange, faraway place. This is my first ever stream to have filmed from somewhere else. So it's exciting to be on the road. My computer did indeed pack in a suitcase. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this and you're enjoying where you are. As we look at the last couple weeks going into Endwalker, we will continue to be here. We will be here posting all the way through the end of the year and beyond. We're looking forward to sharing it with you. So thanks for stopping by. Take care.